Join us for another episode where real men have real conversations about leadership, relationship, morality, and dominion. Welcome to Man Code.
Well, hello, viewing audience. My name is Jonathan. I want to welcome you back to another hot, exciting Man Code conversation. As always, we want to thank you for tuning in. Your viewership is always appreciated. But before I get in too far, I want to go around and let my brothers get themselves introduced.
Pastor Crawford.
Going on, everybody? Austin McMurray, good to see y'all again.
Danielle Lewis, welcome back to the Man Code Conversation.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, gentlemen, and definitely welcome back. As always, too, when you're watching the video, like it, because you're definitely going to like the content. I know you do. Share it out, because there's always somebody else who needs to hear the conversation to get in on as well. And definitely subscribe so you know when we're coming back with new conversation, new content, and you can be right in on it. But before we get kicked off today, I just want to say, if you have not seen the last few weeks, go back in, take a dive back into that. We were dipping in on family. We took a nice hit at that. The thing is, we always try to give solutions, but our idea is really just to spark the conversation, and you can come up with the solutions and build those out in your family, your community. So definitely go back in, take a look at those. They're always up, always ready to view. But I want to throw this out because I'm gonna tell y'all the truth. I wrestled with this question for years. Okay, so as the viewers have seen from the title, it is what is being Black? And like I said, I've never really been able to put my finger on it. I have a lot of ideas around it, but that's really where we're gonna come at today. So I wanna hit it on head. What really is being Black?
Yeah, this is a good topic. Because to your point, it's definitely tough to answer this question. And I think that answers the question within itself, right? Because it's so many aspects to like what Blackness is, right? Is how we wear our hair, how we walk, how we acknowledge each other, how we love God, right? How we express ourselves when we talking about expression of praise and exuberance and the excitement around it and why we do it, right? And I also think a lot of it, man, is just having an understanding of where you come from, having an understanding of your culture, how from an American perspective, like how we got here, right? My wife and I, we had the privilege of traveling to several countries on the continent, specifically in East Africa. And it connected like so many dots for me being there, right? Just kind of like seeing how we as like Black people who were native to the continent existed, how we live, how we express ourselves, how loud we talk, how aggressive we are in our arguments with each other, whether it be about sports, whether it be about whatever, right? Whether it be a good or bad topic, it's like, that's just who we are. And one of the things that stood out to me, we were at a cultural center and they did a traditional drum and dance show. And the dancing and the drumming was literally sounded just like shout music, right? And so it just really changed my perspective on that aspect of it. When we talk about the Black church and how we express ourselves in worship, I'm like the cadence, the pattern, the different tempos, the offbeat, the onbeat, like just literally like who we are, right? And so I think for me to answer that question, I think it's just an understanding as well as a respect of like where we are, where we come from, and just how we move amongst each other.
That was well said. Well, you know, what is really being Black? Well, I guess you, like you said, what is a Black man in America? What is a Black man in Africa? A Black man in Europe? It takes on so many different aspects. But I'll speak from the standpoint of, you know, what I see as being Black in America, or what is being Black. To me, it's just representing who you are, trying to have knowledge of, as Austin said, your culture, where you came from, history, all those types of things, but just not trying to be anything particular, but just being who you are and being the best version of yourself. You know, of course, we have cultural things that we do. I'm not going to go around and do certain things that just to appease someone, to make someone think that I'm different or this or that. I'm just going to be me. And if that's not Black enough for you, hey, I don't know what to tell you, but you know, like I opened the show up today, you know, hey, let you know, black, you know what I'm saying? I was throwing that out there to get a response, but you know, people have many different ideas what black is, and I'm going to get to some of that later. But to me, being black, I think is just being who you are, and if you are, you know, if you're not black enough, or if you're too black, you know, I'm sure you get some feedback on that.
That last point, if you're not black enough, I think
Right.
that's what get everybody.
Yeah. It's so funny that Pastor Malcolm says that. It's because we treat being black as if there is a sense of entitlement to it, to the point where, you know, everybody has this magical black card that can be pulled at any time you violate black code, whatever black code actually is. You know, it's like, I'm going to take your black card, you know. So it's like, for me, when I read that first question, it was kind of like, you know, I actually went to kind of like definitions, you know, just kind of like thinking about black, because we weren't always called black, you know. And so black is a part of an evolution that even right now seems to be up under a microscope. You know, we have, you know, went from, nigger to negro, from negro to black, you know, from black to African American. We had this spectrum of a classification of a people transcending throughout history, and at each point it seemed as though black seemed to stick because of the movement in which was surrounding black, identifying this race of people in America. James Brown was noted as being the coining, you know, I'm black and I'm proud, you know, with one of his songs, and that became the mantra for African Americans to embrace the term black. And as a result of it, embracing the word black, it actually gave a sense of empowerment, of strength, that caused African Americans to, like I said, rally behind it and become a proud, strong race of individuals in America. So when I hear what is being black, it usually takes me back to the formation of it and some of the foundations of when it became a thing or became a title.
Wow, that's deep. Y'all really came scholarly on this one. Well, I'm gonna give you my little take on it. I have to say, to me now, from where I'm standing in society, here we are, 2022. Black to me doesn't always define us as a race. Black to me right now, I think is more of a culture. It's more of a cultural phenomenon. Because growing up, I want to say it was a little bit more segregated as far as the culture itself. When I got into my mid-teens and I saw people outside of the black race listening to hip hop and bumping it, I thought that was just the weirdest thing, because my mindset was always geared on, well, this is a black thing. This is a neighborhood. This is our thing. So I think the definition has totally changed. When I came up, we didn't call ourselves African Americans. I still just call myself, I'm a black person. You know, it's like, well, I gotta have such a long definition to it. You know, it is what it is. But even though we know that term black was not given us as a positive, it was meant to denounce the negative. But at the same time, it's been turned around, like you alluded to, Danielle, to make you someone that's, hey, I'm not ashamed of being black. So we spun that good. The thing too is, though, I always have gotten this, and I'm still confused by it, even though I understand it partly. Why do some black people feel entitled to judge another's blackness? You're all in the same boat at the end of the day. So help me out with this one, because always confused.
Wow. Wow, that's good. That's good. Well, I don't know. You know, people are just people. You know, you got some people that think they know everything, get all the answers. As you say, they think they're more down, they're more black, they're more up on what's happening. They're the authors of black, they have all the answers and so forth. So like, you know, I can tell you, but of course we know that's foolish, you know what I'm saying? You know, I just think it's from our nature, in a sense, it's that fallen nature want to just name something or, you know, categorize it because you feel that you may be the authority on it or one of the authors, which we don't have that right. We know that's foolish when it's all said and done. We know that's foolish. We can't call what's black, or, you know, they want to judge somebody's blackness. But we feel that we do that because you can walk down the street, and if I'm walking with someone that may not be my color, or if I'm doing something, or if I'm talking a certain way or whatever, people want to say he talks white, he does this, he, whatever. But at the end of the day, America will let you know that you're black. You don't have to worry about that. If you got a certain pigmentation and it's not that light bright, or even, I'm talking about, I'm talking about that Caucasian, hey, they will let you know. You can think all this or all that, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to say it, but in America, some people, you're always going to be black, and you won't be confused. You won't be confused.
Yeah, I think within our culture specifically, like amongst each other, I think it's a lack of respect for the diversity and how people were brought up, right? Like you take me, for example, right? I grew up in, one of the largest black denominational churches, in the world. So that's the type of church I grew up in. Whereas like you got some black people who grew up Catholic, who went to church with, mostly white people, right? And so we have two different experiences, but that doesn't discount that person's blackness. And I think we've also associated blackness with being passionate with struggle sometimes. And when I say that, I mean, like if you don't understand the road to slavery, if you don't understand the Black Panther movement and why they exist, if you don't understand the struggles of black people, then you aren't black enough. And I think that's another mindset I feel like that has been detrimental to us respecting each other's blackness, because blackness is more than slavery, is more than oppression, is more than whatever. Like it's a lot of positive that comes from it. So when people don't identify with what most people think blackness is, which I feel like unfortunately is sometimes struggle, then they discount how black you are. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, just to kind of add to what Austin was saying, I guess I'm going to stay in the history books for a minute, and really just kind of come from a perspective of I think the reason why that judgment is there is because it's been ingrained from slave strips to today. There's always been this struggle between complexion and who was supporting a cause and who wasn't. And so when you look at plantations, the owner basically would put the house slave against the field slave. House slaves received, even though they were slaves, they received better quarters, probably better rations of food. They were lighter in complexion because they were bed maids sometimes to the masters. And so therefore, lighter skin complexion, there was a separation, which then caused there to be somewhat of a rift between the groups, or between the race itself. That basically stained the course, because even as we were liberated and freed, if you will, it's kind of crazy to talk about this, because when I say like freed, it's like, man, whoo, it just get. But anywho, we were freed. That stigma stayed in our culture. So then it was like brown paper bagging. Those who are basically lighter than a brown paper bag, they got passes and certain privileges within inside of society that those that did not, who are darker in complexion, didn't. So it stayed within our culture all the way up. We have this was the year of the light skinned brother. This is the year of the dark skinned brother. You know what I'm saying? You have like all of these different things based on our complexion. And so I'm saying like all these different things, play a role in how we perceive our blackness, how we receive our culture, how we receive the interaction with one another. Baseline, we know that we all in this pot together, but how we matriculate through time and through situations in society, those nuances actually are colored. And I think that lays root to when somebody says, you're not down for the cause, or you're not down for this, they're really kind of referring to you have certain passes that others, don't have. And, you have certain privileges that others don't have, even with inside of the culture.
Yeah.
I can also say this too. Yeah. Austin, you want to say something?
No, go ahead, Pastor Malcolm. I'll go after you.
Yeah, I was going to say this too. And it's so ridiculous to try to judge someone's blackness, because you can be so far off. Because first of all, you don't know all the history. Let's take, for example, Malcolm X. When Malcolm first started, man, he was one of, you know how that thing was. And then he evolved. So people can evolve. You can see someone today, and they may have shifted their whole mindset And if you don't go back to where they started, it could be totally different. You could be in air. So you don't know the whole story, what people came from. And basically, I think when you start judging one another, you don't have all the information, number one. And it's really just a lack of, I would say, insight. You're at a lower level of thought. And I'm not making that a negative thing, because that's just where you are. Sometimes you have to evolve as we rethink and learn more. We become more knowledgeable, and we start to understand that, hey, what I did was wrong. And so you just have to acknowledge it and say, hey, I was wrong to do that. I'm glad I see the light now. I'm glad I see things clear. And you just move forward. And But like you say, when you come up, I think judging people is just a lack of understanding, a lack of ignorance, and a lot of times it's not meant to harm people. It's just that where you came from. Sometimes it's meant to harm, but a lot of times it's just because that's where you're at, and that's what you were taught, that's what you're seeing, and that's part of your culture, and that's how you came up. Because we were having a great conversation, because I can tell you some stories about myself, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, just to kind of add to what you all were saying, I think it also comes from like a need to feel superior, because we live in America specifically, right? Like we live in a country where, almost all of our existence, we've been told we're inferior, we've been made to feel inferior, and so it's kind of like, as a mass, we haven't had that, like, I guess, courage to like rise up and fight against those those powers that be, if you will, to stop that mindset. So we then we turn to fight to each other, right? So that's where it turns into, you're not black enough, or your hair is not this way, or you married a white woman, you married a white man, you this, you that. So it's like, in order to feel superior, we've then made each other feel inferior. And like Donnell said, I think that goes back to kind of how the like systems kind of made us turn against each other. And we have the information technology and knowledge to, I guess, kind of change that. And I think we are taking steps towards changing that 100%. But I think it's just like waking up and realizing that, hey, stronger together than we are apart. So.
Yeah, I'm digging that. Now, when you think of blackness, you really can't put a finger on one thing. So I have to agree with y'all. You really can't judge it, because one thing is, you can gather from all walks of life, which every race and culture is, which is always kind of, boggle my mind as far as why the judgment is there. Put us all together, and at the same time, we get the same judgment scale. So you kind of look at it in the sense of, yeah, that's kind of dumb to try to tear it up. Really, it's not anything that, I want to say, it doesn't really exist. You alluded to that, Danielle. Light-skinned brothers went out of style in January of 1990, and ain't came back yet. So really, it's an evolving thing. You have to look at it. We're not an old culture. So when you have something that's trying to find its way, learn and develop it, it's going to evolve as it goes. So again, that's one of those. It's one of those scratch your head things. So it's just why. But again, I think a lot has been fed into that to really get you from the direction of seeing really who you are and really where you need to be. But while we on blackness, I gotta throw this out. I'm driven to live in a better neighborhood, educate myself, and not feed into stereotypes. So I'm not sagging my pants, I'm not wearing Jordans, I'm not bumping, I'm not putting rims all on my car, not trying to be seen, not trying to be flashy. So how does not feeding into stereotypes lessen my blackness?
I think one of the things that we need to identify is that there's subcultures within inside a culture. And just because I don't identify with a subculture within inside my culture, it doesn't mean I'm not part of that culture. I know that sounded like a tongue twister, but what I'm simply saying is that individuals who are grown up in urban neighborhoods and have grown up on rap music and identify with rap artists and dress like rap artists, that's not being black. That's being urban, growing up in an urban community, identifying with that subculture group of rap music. You could take that same culture of African Americans growing up in the country, raised on the farm, and that's not black. These are subcultural groups, and that's why we can't identify our blackness or our camaraderie as a people by where you grew up and what affinity you have to what type of genre of music. Because we all grow up in different hemispheres and different dynamics, and so I think that's why this is not a black and white kind of conversation. There's so many layers and some layers and textures to the conversation that adds to this.
Okay. What's y'all take on that? I got a little something to drop on.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what Donnell said. I think it's a lack of, I guess, a lack of respect for diversity in Blackness, and I think it's a lack of understanding as well. And I mean, a prime example, like I said before, like I just went to, we were in Uganda, and so many people came to me and said, "Wait, you're a Black person from America." And it's like the concept of a Black person being in America for some people in East Africa was not even a thing, because their only experience with Blackness is on the continent. And so that's where like that understanding comes from, that information, that knowledge, and that education of what Blackness is, right? Like what I do in Michigan is completely different than what somebody does in Mississippi or Louisiana or Texas, a Black person from those places. So it's just getting an understanding. And I think that's a huge reason why it's kind of that battle, because we don't know how powerful and diverse we really are as a people. We just base everything on our tunnel vision experience.
Restate that for me for a second, because I had a thought on it. And I think I kind of got away from it because you guys gave so much good information. Restate that particular question for me.
I was wondering, if I want to live in a better neighborhood, educate myself, and not live according to stereotypes, does that lessen my Blackness?
Oh no, that's what I thought you had. No, of course not. No, everybody should have the desire and the aspiration to do better, to become the best you can be, to live your best life and so forth. But the thing that you don't want to do is, I would call it, you don't want to really lose who you are, lose connection from where you came from, thinking that you're better than, all those types of things with pride set in, and you refuse to go back to maybe help those that may be less fortunate, and looking down from whence you came, knowing that, hey, you were there once upon a time, but now that you, in a sense, you what's the George Jefferson thing? You moved up to the east side, you get a piece of that pie, and you don't want to share the pie with nobody. That's the problem there. But at the end of the day, no, don't feed into that false narrative. Let the haters hate. The Bible makes it clear. God wants us to prosper and to become the best we can be. At the end of the day, man, you just want to do the best you can, help others, and know who you are, and just be a giver, man. Give back, and hey, if you want to get out, me personally, I have a strong affinity for my neighborhood where I come from. Now, am I living there? No. Would I have a problem living there? I wouldn't have a problem, but if I do go there, my goal would be to make it better. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna get caught up into the derogatory things that would bring it down. I'm going to try to enhance and build that particular neighborhood up. But no, at the end of the day, just become the best you can be, man. That's what I would say.
Y'all made some great points on that, because I look at it like this: celebrate the wins. If somebody does better than you, celebrate it. Because you had the same opportunity. If you look at it in a perspective, it may be more challenging, but at the same time, that same opportunity exists for you. Find out how they got there. It all goes back, really, and I'm gonna go into history a little bit too, but it all goes back, like you alluded to, Danielle, the divide. We're always that crab in a barrel mentality that needs to break. Another way to look at that too, we would celebrate the celebrities. We emulate what they want to do, but we judge each other on a harder level when we're not even on that pay scale when we try to move up. So no, that y'all cracked that open good. But I'm gonna stay on this a little bit more, because this is another one that boggles me. Now, what is the Black standard? Or was that like a false narrative created to make a group of clones? Like, if you Black, you like this, or if you Black, you won't do this, or if you Black, you won't vote a certain way. Really, what is that? Or is that just some garbage?
Well, I think it's garbage. I'll just put that out there, because honestly, to ask the question would mean there has to be some document that is passed around to every African American on what Black code is, and there's no such thing. It's we say, around the Christian circles, sometimes they say some things are caught, some things are taught. And I think that's the same thing when it comes to Black culture. I think some things are taught, some things are caught. I think most of the things that are taught to us honestly by, we allow media to be our teacher. We allow history to be the arbitrator of truth, of what should be, and we always weigh one against the other. And so I think when we look at how we move, I think that, I hate to say that we make it up on as we go along, but if we look at the dispensations of what Black is, like I said, if I go back to the 60s and the 70s, if you go to the 60s was civil rights. If you look at the 70s was like a renaissance for African Americans. There was actually a coming up as far as even in classism for African Americans. More African Americans became middle class citizens during the, I know in the Detroit area, in the Chicago area, people were actually migrating out of the South, coming north because there were a lot better jobs and they were making a better living up north than they were in the South. And so I can say, as you're looking at that, I think there was a formation. There's always been desire to come up, but I think for us, and I know people probably hate to say this, but for us, what we've always stuck in front of us as what our come up is not been looking at another African American, is actually looking at another white American. We was like, that's been our benchmark. The white picket fence, the car, the family, the dog, all of that American dream is what African Americans have been chasing. And we put everything we have towards trying to get the quote unquote American dream, but that's a fallacy. It's an ideology. It's something basically to aspire to achieve, because once you actually get it, you don't have it. You know what I'm saying? Because there's still all the other nuances. It's your legal systems. I'm sorry, let me stop. It's just all these other things that, are framed around it. Yeah, so.
Wow. Well, yeah, that's a lot said there. Yeah, so that's a great point there. So I guess my thing would be, what is the Black standard? Who sets the Black standard? And how are you going to let somebody set that for you? But I definitely get where you guys are coming from. Yeah, I would just say, hey, I think back to what Brother Daniel was saying too, go back to the 60s, because I come up during that time too, like I said, we were trying to, in a sense, like you say, the civil rights, you were just trying to get what was fair for you. And then the 70s, we had that, as you say, that renaissance of the black man trying to, recognize the identity and so forth. And then the 80s and so forth. But yeah, the standard is, I don't think it's kind of, well, Blacks do want to imitate certain Blacks, but as far as cloning, I think most Blacks, they have their role models they want to follow, but just trying to be like someone and be clones and duplicates of people, that may be a part of some people's makeup, but as a whole, I think most Blacks, most people are smart enough to know who they want to be, and they want to follow to a degree what their conscience leads them to do, believing that what they think is right. So yeah, yeah. But as far as a group of clones, I don't know about that too much.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's complete garbage, because I feel like the standard for Blackness is often set by people who aren't Black, and like kind of what Pastor Malcolm was alluding to. One thing that we pride ourselves on as Black people is our uniqueness, and as well as like our individuality as well. So we got to be mindful of the image that media portrays, right? Like I keep going back to, visiting East Africa and everything, but growing up, right, all I thought it was babies with big bellies with flies on their face and poverty, right? But then I get over there, obviously over time in my life, I learned more about it. Then we get over there, it's infrastructure, it's structure, it's, agriculture is amazing there. It's just like so uniform. Like we're defined as like these abrasive people. Like these were some of the nicest people that I've ever met in my life. And all because I allowed what media said we were as Black people to kind of shape my image of it and everything. And like I even look at like a lot of the, I guess, quote unquote Black hair brands, right? I saw this post the other day, and most of them were started by white people. If not literally, like some of the major ones were all started by white people. So it's like you got these people trying to define who we are as people, what blackness is. Like I even saw that in 2020 when George Floyd happened, right? You know, I was working in corporate America.